From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Friday morning. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. We start this Friday like the rest of the country, awaiting the results of the presidential election. As votes come in, the electoral count is still sitting at 253 to 213 in favor of Democrat Joe Biden. The president is winning in Pennsylvania, but just this morning, Joe Biden grabbed the lead in Georgia by a few hundred votes. CBS's Laura Podesta brings us the latest.
Democracy is sometimes messy.
After 4 days of counting ballots, former Vice President Joe Biden has overtaken President Trump in the state of Georgia.
We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners.
Votes are still being counted in Georgia and elsewhere. On Thursday, the former vice president urged patience.
The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
President Trump had large leads on election night in a handful of states, but those began to disappear once the tally of mail-in ballots began.
It's amazing how those mail-in ballots are so one-sided.
At the White House, Mr. Trump made a number of false claims and attacked the integrity of the election.
And this is a case where they're trying to steal an election. They're trying to rig an election.
The Trump campaign has filed lawsuits in several states trying to halt the process. But election officials around the country say they've seen no evidence of voter fraud.
The strength of the integrity of this vote is really unparalleled.
Trump supporters gathered at vote counting centers around the country and repeated the president's false accusations.
They shut down the counting of the voting because they knew Trump was winning.
Some officials say they're concerned for their safety.
I can tell you that my wife and my mother are very concerned for me, but we have security here.
A senior administration official tells CBS News the president may not concede the election if Biden declares victory. Laura Podesta, CBS News, Washington.
If Biden becomes the projected winner in Pennsylvania, he'll have reached 270 electoral college votes. If he wins Georgia, it moves him to a projected 269, meaning the president would need to win all the remaining states to tie him. When every vote is finally tallied, there could be recounts in multiple states. Reporter Joe St. George looks at the history of recounts and finds out how often they actually change an outcome.
In some states, recounts are automatically triggered. In other states, candidates have to ask for them. But one thing is clear: recounts rarely change outcomes. Since 1980, there have been 5,778 statewide elections. There have only been 31 completed statewide recounts. Only 3 of those races have actually changed after a recount. That's according to fairvote.org. Perhaps the most famous recount of all was in Florida in 2000, but the 2000 Florida recount, the final margin only shifted by 1,247 votes, or around 0.02%. In a recount in 2016 in Wisconsin for the presidential race, the final vote there changed by just 571 votes, or 0.02%. We asked political scientist Dr. Eric Clawville at Norfolk State University about whether recounts really matter.
I believe that recounts in themselves are not in favor of those that have lost a race. Unless it's a very, very, very close margin, we're talking maybe less than 100 ballots. But usually, even with that margin of error, it's a very small opportunity for the loser to actually win.
So if a race is close, in the end, expect a recount. After all, it's what the losing candidate wants. But unless the margin is a couple hundred votes or less, don't expect anything to change. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
Montanans cast more than 608,000 votes for the election. That breaks the old record by almost 90,000 and is nearly 81% turnout. Here in Yellowstone County, voters made up nearly 85,000 of those votes. Election Administrator Brett Rutherford says there are about 2,000 unresolved and provisional ballots still to be counted. Those will be counted Monday at the courthouse, and the results will be posted immediately. Do you think they're getting some good old overtime.
There's a lot
in that
going
office.
on there, that's for sure.
Yes,
no
there
doubt about
is.
that.
All right, is our warm weather going into overtime, or is it coming to an end?
Yeah, that one's winding down for us as temperatures this morning are still very mild, sitting at 58. Current reading at the airport with the southwest wind at 15 miles per hour. The winds even back off a little bit today, and so do the temperatures. We set or tied records in Billings, Sheridan, Livingston, and Miles City yesterday. Everybody making it up into the 70s. Still that mild air around this morning, but we really don't expect it to get a lot warmer. Notice that streak of moisture across northwest and north central Montana, kind of an indication of what's to come. 38 in Miles City, 37 Sheridan, 45 for you in Cody, and 54 in Livingston. For southern Montana and northern Wyoming, similar temperatures into the 30s, 40s, 50s. We're still starting off warm, but we're not expecting a huge warm up into the afternoon. Temperatures will drop a little bit just before the sun comes up, and then we level off after that. We'll take a closer look at all of this coming up in a little while.
All right, not too bad. Thank you so much, Ed. I'll get back to the news.
Thanks.
To the latest on the pandemic, the U.S. has once again set a new daily coronavirus case record. Yesterday, the country reported more than 121,000 cases. This is another jump from the previous record set just the day before. On Wednesday, more than 102,000 cases were reported. In Montana, over 1,000 new cases and 5 additional deaths were announced yesterday. We now have nearly 12,000 active cases in the state. The U.S. economy is still struggling because of the pandemic. The country is dealing with massive unemployment, and as CNN's John Lawrence tells us, there's no guarantee a stimulus package will come anytime soon.
The U.S. economy is showing some signs of recovering from a rough second quarter.
The housing sector has fully recovered from the downturn, supported in part by low mortgage interest rates. Business investment has also picked up.
But Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, says COVID-19 is still crushing the economy.
Overall economic activity remains well below its level before the pandemic, and the path ahead remains highly uncertain.
Roughly 751,000 Americans claimed first-time jobless benefits last week, according to the Labor Department.
Every state's got the same problem. Every state has massive unemployment claims that it's paid much more than they expected.
Powell says a stimulus package would benefit the country, especially those who have lost their jobs due to COVID-19.
I think we'll have a stronger recovery if we can just get at least some more fiscal support when it's appropriate, when it's appropriate and the size Congress thinks it's appropriate. I do think that will likely.
But Americans are going to have to wait. Stimulus talks between House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin are at a stalemate. But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says a stimulus bill might be considered before 2021. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
According to exit polls, the economy and the pandemic were top issues for voters. The October unemployment report comes out later this morning. It's expected to show 600,000 new jobs in the economy last month. Experts also expect the unemployment rate to drop to 7.7%, down from 7.9% in September. Yesterday, the weekly unemployment report for the last week of October showed claims dropped by 7,000. Planning is in full swing for the upcoming 2021 Montana legislature. There are still many unanswered questions regarding COVID-19 protocols for the session, including how much can be done in person and how much remotely. Q2's Jay Cohn sat down with freshly re-elected Billings lawmakers, Kathy Kelker and Bill Mercer, to hear their thoughts on the upcoming session.
There's some consideration is doing a hybrid with perhaps doing a Zoom type thing with the committees. And then when it's time to vote, we have the voting in a bigger space so there could be distance.
My plan's to be there in person. I think it would be difficult to function as a legislator remotely because there's just an awful lot of interaction that's going to happen in the building between the executive branch and the legislative branch with fellow legislators. I think it would be a real challenge to try to do that. So, it's my expectation that I will be there, and it's my expectation that a large contingent of the legislature will be there.
Kelker will be serving her fourth term in the House, while Mercer will begin his second term. Lawmakers will meet November 17th and 18th to select the leadership for the 2021 session and have a choice to attend in person or remotely. The 2021 session convenes January 4th. Continuing our coverage, a Custer County teen is found safe after a missing person advisory was issued for her early yesterday morning. Just before 1:30 on Thursday afternoon, authorities notified us 14-year-old Serenity Wilson had been located. She was first reported as a runaway, but officers said she may have been kidnapped by 17-year-old Toby Pittman. Information on where Wilson was found or the nature of Pittman's involvement in her disappearance was not released. In court news, the Billings Investment Group takes home a big win with the judge ruling Montana Lottery cannot limit sports wagering to businesses with liquor licenses. Arete Group filed a lawsuit claiming the lottery didn't have the power to add restrictions on betting beyond what was decided by the state legislature. The judge agreed, and the group has already reapplied for a sports wagering license. Montana Lottery officials called the judge's ruling significant and said they are working to determine their next steps. Now we go to Madison County, where an Ennis man pleaded not guilty to charges accusing him of killing a woman during a child custody exchange. 53-year-old Rick Park faces charges of deliberate homicide and assault with a weapon. Documents state he shot 36-year-old Nicole Watson twice in the head in front of his home in Ennis. Watson's husband witnessed the crime and called 911. When police arrived, they say Park told him he killed Watson and gave them the gun he said he used to commit the crime. His bond was set at $1 million. The latest technology, additional space, and more security. And those are just a few of the features of the new Billings Police Department's new evidence facility. The building is located on Midland Road and was fitted with nearly $4 million in upgrades. At a dedication ceremony yesterday, Mayor Bill Cole called the facility incredible, adding it was owed to the community and victims of crimes. Chief Rich St. John said the building is necessary for successful prosecutions and the proper processing of evidence. People are buying guns and ammo in record numbers this year. As reporter Ashley Sampson shows us, it's having an unexpected impact on a group of professional marksmen.
Some guys have a man cave in their homes. Clint Adams has turned his Utah basement into part science lab, part ammunitions workshop.
Put a primer in, and then I'm loading a charge.
He measures the weight of each bullet he's loading to the gram.
The brass I'm using is Alpha Brass. The powder is Hodgkin Varget.
This may sound like a different language to you and me, but to the professional long-range precision shooter, it's basic.
You can have the best fundamentals as a shooter, but if your ammo isn't better than you, you're not gonna have success.
He provided us with some video of a national competition he competed in, pre-COVID. Now,
so I'll practice a lot this way too.
Dry firing in his backyard. No magazine, no bullets.
Definitely you get some weird looks from people that may not know you.
It's not ideal, but there aren't many options these days.
This year's been a really good year.
Since March, Dave Larson has had a hard time keeping his shelves stocked.
Yeah, after they cleaned out the Costco's, they came to the gun stores.
He says his supply is 1/3 of what it was last January.
9mm ammo usually sits right here.
Today feels a bit like Christmas morning to Adams. He's firing real ammo for the first time in months.
I'd definitely say the shortage is affecting my ability to get out and stay sharp.
But a series of road trips all over the state made today possible. And he says he plans to do whatever it takes to keep up on his craft.
Hey, I'll drive 3 or 4 hours to be able to buy 1,000 primers to keep doing this.
Just don't ask him to reveal his favorite shooting location.
It's like becoming secret hunting spots where people go to shoot.
Reporting from somewhere in Utah, I'm Ashley Sampson.